The air inside the bank was stiff, heavy with the scent of old paper ink, and a trace of impatience from the people standing in line. Outside, the day was warm, filled with the hum of traffic and the chatter of a busy city. But inside, time seemed slower. People shifted uncomfortably in their seats, glancing at their watches, waiting for their turn. Among them stood an older man, his clothes plain and his shoes scuffed. His hands bore the marks of years of work, rough, scarred, yet steady. His name was Raghav, though nobody in that bank recognized him as anything more than just another customer. Raghav carried a small cloth bag in his hand. Inside it were the last bits of his savings, collected carefully over the years. He had walked into this branch not for charity, not for pity, but simply to ask a question about opening an account. But he was tired. Tired of the world treating him as though his worth was measured by how he dressed or how much money he already carried. He approached the counter, his voice quiet but firm. "Beta, I want to open an account. Can I do that with what I have?" The manager sitting at the counter, Mr. Verma, barely glanced up from his computer. His suit was sharp, his tie perfectly knotted, and his eyes held the kind of arrogance that comes from years of looking down on people. He adjusted his glasses and asked curtly, "How much money do you have to deposit?" Raghav hesitated for a moment, then opened the cloth bag. Inside were crumpled notes, a few coins, and maybe, if counted carefully, less than 1,000 rupees. He slid it forward. Mr. Verma chuckled, shaking his head. "Sir, this isn't enough. Accounts with this amount hardly make sense. Do you know the minimum balance requirements? You'll probably end up paying penalties. It's better you keep this money at home." The people waiting in line overheard the conversation. Some looked away, embarrassed for the old man. Others smirked. Raghav's face flushed, but he stood tall. "So you're saying, if I don't already have money, I don't deserve to keep it safe in a bank?" The manager smirked, leaning back in his chair. "Look, uncle, banking isn't charity. If you can maintain the balance, fine. If not, you'll just lose money in fees. Unless, of course," he added with a mocking laugh, "you pay us double for every balance you fail to maintain." The line of customers chuckled at the sarcasm. It was meant to be a joke, to belittle. But Raghav didn't laugh. His eyes didn't waver. He simply gathered his bag of notes, nodded once, and said quietly, "I'll remember your words." Nobody knew that day who Raghav truly was. Nobody recognized the humility in his stance, the patience in his silence, or the strength behind his tired eyes. For Raghav was not just a poor old man. He was the founder and CEO of the very bank they stood in. A man who had built the institution from scratch decades ago, before stepping back from the public eye. He had returned that day in simple clothes. Not to inspect the bank officially, but to see with his own eyes how his people were treated. How the spirit of the bank he had dreamed of was being carried forward. But what he witnessed broke his heart. That night, Raghav sat in his small home office. The walls were lined with old photographs, black and white pictures of him in his youth, standing beside the very first branch he had opened, surrounded by employees who had once shared his dream. His dream was never about money alone, it was about dignity. He had built the bank so that people like him, who once had no place to keep their hard-earned savings, could feel respected, could feel included. And now, decades later, the very spirit of that dream had been mocked in front of dozens of strangers. Raghav knew he had to act. The next morning he arrived at the branch again, but this time he did not come alone. A small team followed him, senior executives who had worked with him since the beginning, men and women who still addressed him respectfully as Sir. When he entered, the security guard, the tellers, even the manager froze. Whispers ran through the crowd. "That's him. That's the founder." Mr. Verma's confident smirk vanished. He jumped to his feet, stammering, "Sir, I didn't know it was you yesterday. If I had known." Raghav raised a hand to silence him. His voice was calm, but each word cut like steel. "That's exactly the problem, Mr. Verma. You didn't know who I was, and so you thought you could mock, laugh, and humiliate someone who came here in trust. Tell me, if I had been just another poor man, would he not deserve respect? Is dignity given only to those who wear suits or deposit lakhs in your bank?" The entire branch was silent. Customers watched with wide eyes, some ashamed for having laughed the day before. Raghav walked slowly to the counter where he had stood yesterday. He placed his cloth bag once again on the table. This money, he said softly, might look small to you, but for someone, it is their lifetime's effort. Every rupee has sweat behind it. And when they bring it to us, they are not begging, they are trusting us. Do you understand the weight of that trust? Mr. Verma swallowed hard, his head bowed. Raghav continued. You laughed yesterday and said you'd only accept my balance if I paid you double. Very well. From today, this branch will start a new program. For every small account opened here, this bank will contribute double in matching savings. If a farmer saves 100 rupees, we will add another 200. If a laborer saves 50, we will add 100. And this will continue until the people of this city feel safe to walk in here without fear of ridicule. Gasps filled the room. Customers' eyes shone with tears. Raghav looked around, his voice rising with passion. A bank is not just about numbers. It is about people. Never forget, behind every deposit is a dream. Behind every withdrawal is a need. Behind every account is a story. And if we cannot respect those stories, then we do not deserve to call ourselves bankers. The crowd broke into applause. Some even wiped their eyes. The atmosphere in the branch transformed from coldness to warmth, from arrogance to humility. As for Mr. Verma, he stood trembling. Raghav placed a hand on his shoulder. You are young, he said, and arrogance can blind us all. Learn from this mistake. Tomorrow, when another man walks in with little money, remember this day. Treat him with the same respect you would show me. A month passed, and word of the incident spread across the city. Poor workers, farmers, rickshaw pullers, and daily wage earners began opening accounts in that branch. The new program of doubling their savings gave them courage, but more than that, the way they were greeted. With smiles, respect, and patience, restored their dignity. The same customers who once laughed at Raghav in his plain clothes now looked back on that day with shame and gratitude, for it had changed the bank forever. Raghav often visited again, still in his simple attire, sitting quietly in the corner watching. And every time, he saw something that gave him hope. Ordinary people walking in with their heads held high, no longer afraid of being judged for how much they carried. Respect is not earned by the size of one's wallet, but by the weight of one's character. And dignity is a right every human deserves, no matter how rich or poor. If this story touched your heart, share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever faced a situation where you were judged for how you looked or how much you had? Let's talk about it below. I read every comment, and if you believe in kindness, respect, and dignity for all, don't forget to subscribe to Be Kind Always, where we share stories that remind us of the true values in life. Hit the like button, share this video with friends, and remember, your small act of kindness can change someone's world.